Our next presenter, Empower Women Media, Shireen Tabor. Shireen, come on up and tell us what's going on with Empower Women.
Be here. Yes, my name is Shireen Tabor with Empower Women Media, and I'm passionate about helping leaders produce media for their mission. And I want to say a thank you to the Barnabas Group and the business leaders out there for allowing us to share tonight. We're very honored. And our aim tonight is to encourage you to think about how you can participate with us in our religious freedom, media-based workplace training, so you can promote religious freedom in the workplace around the world. So first, let me share about myself. Oftentimes when I hear people speak, I think, well, who are they and why are they telling me these things? So to give you some context about why I'm so passionate about religious freedom, it's really rooted in my personal story and my history, and I've been studying religious freedom my whole life. So let me tell you why. I come from an Iranian heritage with a Muslim father and a Christian mother. My father came to the U.S. as a university student and found his California bride here in the Los Angeles area. And somehow they formed their lives together. It wasn't easy. It was rough. When I was a child, my dad was working for Iran Airlines and Boeing and represented various airplane sales. And I lived in Iran for 5 years as a child. And it was during that time when the Islamic Revolution took place, the revolution, and my family had to flee and come back to the U.S. It was a really turbulent time, especially because my mother passed away 1 year later from cancer. But God had his hand on my life, and a neighbor, Pam, in Redmond, Washington, took an interest in myself and my brothers. She led us to church and various activities, and eventually she led me into a personal relationship with Christ, and it really brought healing to my life. Recently, my dad passed away, and after his death, I realized the greatest gift he ever gave me was religious freedom. He did not coerce me to believe exactly as he did. He encouraged me in education, playing sports. I'm 5'11", I play basketball. He encouraged me to travel, and he even allowed me to marry a Lutheran from Baltimore, Clyde Tabor. My husband directs the Visual Story Network, and some of you might be familiar with him. Let me just forward here. Here's my background if you'd like to read a little bit more on the screen. Since that time of coming to Christ and graduating from the University of Washington, God has taken me on an amazing journey. I served with Campus Crusade for many years in the U.S., Europe, the Middle East. We worked with the Jesus film and produced the Magdalena film, which has been viewed by millions in the Middle East and North Africa. Some of my writing and publications have been viewed in the Los Angeles Times, Detroit Press, Christianity Today, even Fox News. As a result of my work in religious freedom, as a media strategist, I've been able to present at the United Nations and the U.S. State Department events. And so clearly there's a theme here, religious freedom, and God seems to continue to show me that that's important to him also. Moving forward. About us. So who are we and as a network, and what are we committed to? Well, as a network, we train professionals in religious freedom advocacy work using media. We contribute to the larger movement to keep the doors open for the gospel, to strengthen the church in the persecuted areas of the world, and promote freedom of faith in the workplace. As a network, we produce high-impact media like short films, social media, audio, and print projects that can reach people around the world. In the religious freedom space, we don't promote religion, so to speak, but everyone's right to choose their own faith and beliefs. The short films we produce are great conversation starters to help us promote religious freedom. Our vision is to use the films to segue to sharing our own personal faith stories and making a case for why religious freedom is so important in the workplace. You might be asking, well, why religious freedom? Why does it really matter? Well, religious freedom is commonly known as the first freedom. It's the freedom from which many of our freedoms flow, like freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of expression, freedom to assemble, and freedom to worship. But sadly, religious freedom is also known as the orphan freedom. Many people dismiss it entirely. However, religious freedom is important because it gives individuals the right to form and exercise their personal faith, their conscience, their beliefs. And without religious freedom, democracies and free markets cannot function. Our world is not safe. So our media projects focus on Article 18, which is here on the screen, of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which was founded in 1948 after World War II to protect our religious freedoms. So let me go ahead and read it. You can read it with me. Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom either alone or in community with others, and in public or private to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. Next slide. So our business-friendly Religious Freedom Initiative couldn't be more timely. Social sciences project that people of faith and religious communities are on the rise, but religious-based restrictions are also on the rise. According to the Religious Freedom and Business Foundation, research shows that people faith can be good for the workplace and the bottom line of business, as long as restrictions on religious freedom are low. Business growth is more than twice as high in religiously free countries than those that do not have religious freedom. The data on the current state of religious freedom is very disturbing. According to annual studies, the restrictions on religious liberties are at their all-time high. Today, nearly 6 billion people, or 80% of the world's population, live in countries with high restrictions on religious freedom. They come from two main sources: the actions and policies of our governments, and the social hostilities that come from people groups or our culture at large. Additionally, COVID-19. We are feeling the squeeze in America now, aren't we, with religious freedom? COVID-19 has had all kinds of impacts on us. The loss of our personal freedoms are felt in our businesses, our schools, our families, and even our churches. Right now in California, many of us cannot attend church, we can't sing during worship, and we cannot even gather in our homes for Bible studies. I thought this was the kind of thing that happened in Iran, where my family originates, where the churches are literally shut down, and now it's happening here in the U.S. This is really tough, especially for people who've immigrated to this country for freedom. So the freedoms we once took for granted have changed, and with that, we now have the opportunity to engage in a bigger conversation around religious freedom, one that has a personal, business, and kingdom impact. So I've talked about the need. Let's look at the practical solutions that we have to offer. We believe that the next frontier is the business community. We believe it's time to ask the business community, you as business leaders, to expand our impact. Why? Because business people are influencers. You pull the levers of society. You shape the culture. You have the platform to help us fulfill our mission to train professionals to promote religious liberty everywhere, even to the ends of the earth. So we've created a media-based training strategy for you as business people. Now I'd like to invite my colleague, a professional scriptwriter and producer, to tell you about why we created the Live What to Believe strategy, how we produced it specifically for you.
Thank you, Shireen. Live What You Believe is an interactive, media-based training series to equip business professionals to support religious freedom. Together with our partners, we offer business-friendly, media-based workshops, including discussion questions and curriculum, showing how freedom of belief is good for peaceful, innovative, and thriving societies. Business leaders need to know that religious freedom is actually good for growth and productivity. As one of our experts explains, cultivating freedom of belief and conscience unleashes creativity and innovation, which is needed more than ever in our increasingly global world. I'm the scriptwriter and one of the producers for the Live What You Believe series. In preparation for writing the scripts, Shireen and I conducted a dozen interviews with some of the top religious freedom experts in the world. We filmed these ambassadors, lawyers, advocates, and scholars as they share their research and experience. Then we interweave throughout these interviews the dramatic story of a young professional woman and her family experiencing the benefits of religious freedom. In our 5 episodes, which each are only 3 minutes long, we define what freedom of belief is, and we explore how it contributes to peaceful and stable societies, which is so important for economies to thrive, and how it empowers women and encourages business and innovation. We all know that business is about people, whether employees, customers, clients, or investors. And research confirms that people are more entrepreneurial and productive when they are allowed to bring their whole selves to work and to worship freely. As Jacqueline Isaac, an international lawyer and religious freedom advocate, says, we cannot ignore that in order to flourish, people have to be able to address their deepest questions of existence and meaning, both privately and in community with others. That's why I'm excited about Live What You Believe. This docudrama strategically equips leaders around the world to advocate for religious freedom in their workplaces and their communities. Shireen?
So let me share a personal story of a colleague of ours in our network. Her name is Maria Goodbrick, and she's originally from Afghanistan. Today, she and her husband own a very successful business, a transportation business in Kansas City, and they use it as a platform to care for the refugees and also promote religious freedom. This film will give you a taste of some of the kinds of stories we share in our Live What You Believe training series.
My family fled Afghanistan as war ravaged our country. Now, as an Afghan American, I reflect back on my family's journey to the West in hope of new life and new opportunities and freedom.
Today, as a business owner and a nonprofit director in Kansas City, we support refugees and promote freedom of belief. Together, we provide sports, education, and mentoring programming that bridges diverse cultures, forming just communities where all are free to be fully known and fully loved in pursuit of their God-given potential. Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights advocates that everyone has the freedom and the right to the freedom of thought, religion, and belief. Yet almost 80% of the world population lives in high restricted areas on freedom of religion and belief. So we are facing an epidemic of persecution worldwide like never before. The conversation about religious freedom is not restricted to policy lawmakers and global advocates. It's all our responsibility. It's in all areas of society. When I look back into where I've come from and the country that I am from in Afghanistan, and I see the women there who are absolutely restricted from the freedom of thought, the freedom of religion, the freedom of belief. And I think about the opportunities that I have, and I think that it's important that all of us, not just for those who live back in the persecuted world, but as a generation to continue these dialogues about religious freedom, because it is all of our responsibilities. And so today I look for tangible ways that we can use our business platform to be able to assist those on the margins, the most vulnerable in our communities. And that's when I met Abdi, a young Somali boy who has come from the persecuted world and who now calls America home.
Hi, my name is Abdi Kadir Hirsi. I'm from Somalia. I didn't have much education in those years in the refugee camp. I'm grateful for my education here, my new home for 3 years. Family, education, community, and soccer, these are the things that important to me. They show me who I am and where I wanted to go. I came to America as a refugee, but now I'm Somali American.
The nonprofit that I run, Global FC, we work to advocate and support children who come from all over the world, where because of lack of religious freedom and belief, and the persecution and the intolerance, war, which has forced them to flee their homelands, in which they've come here to America to a place of new hope and new opportunity.
Together, we can use our collective platforms to say no to cultural and religious discrimination. We can guide the next generation in this pursuit by engaging them in dialogue to promote peace and reconciliation so that every person everywhere can live in thriving communities. Do you believe that? Will you take up the mantle of inclusion? Will you join us?
I love that film. I hope you enjoyed it also. According to the United Nations and the U.S. State Department, a significant problem in the world regarding religious freedom is the lack of education and media tools. And leaders just simply don't have a plan to equip the next generation. Frankly, our church does not have a plan to prepare the next generation. If anything, COVID should be a wake-up call for the church. As I said earlier, it reminds me of the country of Iran that my family left because people were heavily persecuted for their faith. And I would hate to see that happen here in the U.S. But we want to offer a sustainable solution. In the next year, we want to ask you to join us with the following goals that we want to accomplish. Together, we want to challenge 1,000 business leaders around the world to host Live What You Believe trainings in their workplace and small groups. We want to equip 250 female advocates to produce religious freedom short stories and testimonials to share on social media in their spheres of influence. We want to train 100 NGOs and ministries to promote religious freedom, and we believe we can do that through our training. Our training is offered in a 2-hour time frame over lunch, a half-day or full-day workshop, and we believe that this training can truly impact the world for years to come. So what are our needs? Coming to a conclusion now, and I want to be able to share some of our needs with you. One is we need help still in completing this project. We need help in creating an interactive website. So if you know someone who's great with websites, you could contact us. We need help in providing Arabic and Farsi translation and subtitles. We need help in hosting our business-friendly religious freedom workshops and small groups. We need help in growing our board of advisors and our resource team. And finally, we want to reach the world, and so we need help in providing online international training workshops, very much like what we're doing today. Through Zoom, we can train hundreds, if not thousands, of religious freedom advocates who are professionals and business leaders around the world. And finally, we want to ask you to join us. To close, we intend to drive long-term practical solutions to sustain religious freedom for years to come. Most importantly, we want to mobilize a new generation of business leaders to defend freedom of faith in the workplace. I hope you've been convinced today that the Live What You Believe workshop series is on the cutting edge, making the case that religious liberty is good for society, it's good for business, it's even good for the bottom line. So thank you for this chance to share with you. We're honored by this opportunity. Thank you, Jim.